Hello, welcome back. This is Maggie, and this is the second in a series of videos I'm going to do for tutorials on how to knit. In the first video, I covered how to cast on. I left quite a bit of a tail, but this can be cut shorter and woven in after you're done with whatever it is you're doing. This is just to show you how to go across and then turn your work a couple of times using the knit stitch, which the knit stitch is the most simple basic stitch for knitting, kind of like a single crochet for people who crochet. To start, you hold the needle that has your cast on stitches and the yarn that's coming off of your ball or your skein in one hand. Your tail, just kind of let it drape off to the side. The first row of knit stitch that you do is always the hardest, at least for me it is. So what I do is I pull all my cast on stitches really tight and up by the tip of my hook. And I rub between the first two, which loosens up first stitch. Go in from the side that's facing you. Mind you, this is the side of the work that's facing you when you're holding it like this. You can bring your yarn around like that, or you can go around to the front. I bring it down and around the front. Then I hold here, pull it down, and pull the needle through, leaving where I wrapped it around on my needle, and then I slip this stitch on the left hook, the left needle, off the top of the needle. And that's my first knit stitch. Do it again. Push it in from the front to the back, wrap it around, leave it on your hook. What I do is I take the edge of this hook and I don't let it leave. I take the tip of my right hook and I don't let it pull it off of the left needle. I'm saying hook, it's needle, and then I slide the stitch off. Loosen it up, push it through from the front to the back, wrap it around, and not letting the tip of the right needle leave the second needle, pull it back through, push the needle up, leaving that on the needle, and then push it off. And you do that all the way across. Once you get done with this first row of knit stitch, the rows that come after that are very simple. And they flow so much easier. Once you get the hang of the knit stitch, and like if you're just making simple washcloths or dishcloths or even something longer like a scarf, or depending on the size needle that you're using, if it's just a regular long knitting needle like what I'm using right now, or if it's the kind that have the tip part of a needle and a long piece of plastic coming off the top of it, the end of it, those are ideal for like blankets and working in the round where you're making socks and baskets and booties and all kinds of stuff like that. Okay, once you get your knit stitch all the way across, and you slide that last knit stitch off your left needle no longer has any stitches on it. It's all on your right needle. To turn, when they say turn your work, take that right needle, turn it, like that, and then what was your left needle is now your right needle. And then you just knit stitch back across. Now the knit stitch, the stockinette stitch, any stitch where you go from one side of the work to the other, it is going to be kind of a loose stitch, especially when you compare to crochet. Like this is going to be a very, as you can see, it's going to be a very loose stitch as you go. And that loose stitch comes from where you're working with 2 needles instead of 1 hook. And it's not always so simple to keep your yarn so tight that your knit stitch becomes a tight knit stitch. I've only seen that a few times, and that's with people who have been knitting from when they started, when they were like 5 years old and they're like 80. But they're used to it. One last time. This is the side of the work that's facing you. I have it laying flat because my camera's in front of me instead of behind me. This is the part that's facing you. Start here. Push it through this side of the stitch. Push it through. Wrap your needle around the back stitch. Don't let the tip of your right needle leave your left needle. Pull it around, not letting that yarn come off your right needle, and then you push it off with push the other stitch off the left needle. And that is your basic knit stitch.